Hello, welcome back. So, with our dice tray from the last video complete, we need to begin working on the overall structure of our Colosseum so we can get a base to add details to and work on a spot for our dice tray to actually sit on. With that in mind, I made a template out of some cereal box. So all I'm doing is tracing that onto some insulation foam and cutting that out so I have a consistent shape to build up the walls from. You don't have to be too careful in this step, so as long as you get a general shape to make the circle, it's mostly fine. As you can see, I end up even cracking a few of our pieces. And what we're going to be doing is just doing this because we need a lot of these pieces to build up our wall. So I complete that same process again and again and again and again and again. It's a lot of foam. With all of the pieces cut out, I need a way to keep them together while they're all gluing, so I just go with skewering them with some toothpicks. You can definitely use a faster setting glue here. I am using wood glue because it's what I had on hand, and I wasn't too worried about the bond it would create because I knew I was doing more to help that bond later. So I've just stacked all of these into a consistent shape and start gluing it around the outside of the arena. With that all glued in, I need to make the structure that the dice tray will sit on, which will also function as our entryway into the Colosseum. So I just measure out some foam to make sure it has a decent amount of height on it and test to make sure that the dice tray we made in the last video will fit on the structure. And from there I just draw some very rough lines onto it to give me an idea of where I should be cutting. For most of this project I just end up using my knife. I do have foam cutting tools and you can end up getting more consistent cuts out of those tools, but because I knew I was mostly wanting to work in rough shapes at this point, I didn't bother doing that. This is the structure that I ended up with. Again, very rough because I'm not caring too much about the overall shape at this stage. And then once that's in there, I just fill the gaps. So this is why I didn't so much care about the overall shape, because I'm coming in and sanding the outside and inside of our Colosseum to make sure all of those corners are butting up nicely and make me have to do less work later with plaster. Now, when you're sanding foam, I do recommend using a respirator of some kind. The foam dust is pretty nasty and you don't want that in your lungs. So what I'm using here is a mix of plaster and fibrous material. In this case it is actually toilet paper that I've just put through a blender to make sure it's nice and fine. This, if you're using a lot of plaster on your boards, will make sure the board doesn't get as much weight because you can spread the plaster a bit farther. And with that I'm just doing my best to coat the entire wall of the arena all the way around. This is all we need to do to get a solid shape and get it to a point where we can start adding detail in the future. At this point we have a very solid structure to add detail to once the plaster is dry. So in the next video I'll be showing you how to add details to a structure like this. We'll be focusing on adding stonework to the inside and outside of the Colosseum. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.